Hey, good morning, Incubator folks. Today is, well, it's actually Sunday and it's gorgeous out. That's why I'm sitting on my porch. Um, there you go. That's my view. Nothing but the country. Anyways, we're moving forward with section 7.4. I've cut it down substantially because if I take a look at the calendar, and pardon my messy calendar here, but today is the 27th. We know that in 3 weeks, including this week that we're talking about, we need to have your final pitch video done. So we're going to be cutting some things from the curriculum we just simply don't have time for, that we normally would have had time for in the class, but so be it. Knowing that the video is due on the 15th, and then we've got information going out for the judges then for the week of the 18th, and the 22nd is our last day. So the end is near. All right, let's get into what we need to do. So we're on 7.4, the financial story. And if I take a look forward, we've only got our pitch your story unit coming last. So that's where we'll get the video going. So there's a couple things you need to do in here. One, you're watching this video. Two, you're going to read this short article. We'll go through these slides here in a second. There's some additional resources here that we'll go through as examples. And then here's your assignment for Tuesday morning. So you've got one day to get that done. It's 3 questions. It shouldn't take you that long as a team to crank through. So let's go through these slides here real quick so we can sort of understand what we're all referring to. So we're talking about the financial story of your business. If we look at, and this is NoGlow's spreadsheet, right? So thank you, team, for letting me use your slides. Not that you had a choice. There's a lot of numbers going on in these slides. If we had to talk about this conversationally, if we had to talk to somebody about these values without these charts and graphs and spreadsheets and stuff to go through, how do we do that? How do we turn that into a conversational story that everybody at the end would be like, yep, okay, I get it. That's the goal. That's the end goal, right? And that's what we need to do in our final pitches as well. So that's what I'm prepping you guys for here. How can we turn this into a narrative? So there's some things that we need to refer to as we're going through this in that. We need to be able to build our story with numbers, and we need to do those realistically, defendably, and thoughtfully. So the judges not only get it, but they're not like, you're pulling my chain there. I don't, this stuff is made up, right? So can you defend it? And is it thoughtful? Does it make sense? And you tell them the information that they need. So we think about that. And we're going to do this over the course of a 3-year model, okay? Or a multi-year model. So year 1 is month to month. And we figure out how much money, if I go back to their financial model here and we go to their 3-year summary. In year 1, they're seeing a loss, which is typical for a big business. And then year 2 and year 3, we're seeing growth. And if I look at that over a revenue valuation here you can see how they broke it down, the number of units by a month. And then year 2 and year 3 are based on growth rates of 50% and then 75%. Yours may be different. So how do we turn that into a narrative that validates any assumptions that we've had? Okay, that because these numbers are guessing. They're swags. Remember that? So we're guessing as to, are these legitimate, and how do we justify those? We talk a little bit about cash burn, right? So NoGlow is going to go through a lot of money in the first year. And at the end of the year, they'll have lost money, right? We've talked about this. Snapchat. I don't know that Snapchat is still making money, or they might be. I don't know. Investors keep pumping money into it. Tesla for years they just lost and lost and lost and lost and lost. Amazon lost money for the first 5-7 years, and then now they're huge, right? So sometimes you're investing in that company to take off. So how do we talk about that cash burn, the money you're losing versus money you're getting in? And how do we create a baseline for our valuation, which we'll talk about in Unit 8. All right, so there's a couple different things we need to talk about. So there are financial statements that we need to review. So those are income statements and balance sheets and a few other things. We'll go through those. So financial statements are essentially your scorecard, report card of your financial performance of a business. And we use those to defend our investments for businesses to, when we show to investors and then say, yep, you're on the right track, or no, you're crazy. That sort of thing. to prove whether or not we're invest worthy, right? The income statement. Let's talk first about the income statement. And if we go to PowerSchool, there's some additional details here. I'm going to show you an example as well. The income statement is a statement that basically says how much money is coming in and how much money's went out and what's the difference. Hopefully, you've got more money coming in than you got going out, okay? So that's what that sort of looks like. Let me show you a real simple example from Paul's Guitar Shop, which is just made up. And we'll scroll down. Here we go. So here's an income statement for Paul's Guitar Shop. So we see we've got $24,800 in merchandise sales, and this is for the year ending. Okay, so this is for a year. $3,000 revenue for music lessons. So we have a total revenue of $27,800. But our expenses, cost of goods sold, $10,020. Depreciation expense, wage expense, rent expense, interest, supplies, utilities. Stupid pop-up ad. So we've got income of $27,800, expenses of $14,800. The difference is $12,900. So we've got a profit of $12,950. Okay, so that's our income statement. That's what that's showing. So that income statement's going to go through and basically show where are those at. Pretty simple. Okay. Within there's three key terms that we need to make sure that we understand. We have gross profit versus net profit. Gross profit is this number right here, $27,800. That's all of our money coming in. That's not how much we get to keep. We still have to pay expenses out of that. After we pay our expenses, once the money's been paid out, i.e. down here, our net income is $12,950. It's how much we get to keep. Okay, so I always refer to the gross profit as it's so big, it's just gross. Don't even think about it. You can't even use it. Pay your expenses. The net income is what we get to keep when we're done. By the way, if we had a negative, like NoGlow is going to have in the first year, that would be a net loss versus a net income. And finally, our cash position is often will be a shortfall in the startup of the business. So our cash position is really how much cash do we have on hand, or are you operating on debt or credit, which businesses do. That's not abnormal, and they typically operate month to month. I mean, the COVID crisis right now is a prime example. There's a lot of entrepreneurs, restaurants, bars, that sort of thing, that live and breathe month to month. You take 2 months out of the equation right now, there's a number of businesses that may not recuperate from this. They may not come back. So that just shows you your cash position, as opposed to some companies which might have millions of dollars in cash on hand, right? Apple's got $400 billion in cash on hand. Cash. Everything else is paid for. Cash, right? Sitting around. Did they get a government bailout? Well, they probably did, but they shouldn't, right? Because they've got so much cash on hand. It should be going to those small businesses and let that trickle up. So their cash position is just that, okay? Let's continue on. We talk a little bit about building revenue. So our revenue sources are ways we get money. So our product, potential services, whether they're recurring, if you have an advertising model, those sort of things. So how does the money come in and from what sources? Is it one or is it multiple sources? Monthly units sold. This is how many units we sell per month. Price per unit is what's the price of our product per unit or individual. And then our growth rates. How much are we going to grow over the course of a couple of years? So let's talk a little bit about expenses then. We know these. You've known these before. We know what our COGS is. The cost of goods sold is the prices or the expenses directly related to building our product. So in the case of NoGlow, let's go back to their COGS. You've got your bottles and caps, solution ingredients, shipping, labor, and packaging. That's their COGS, right? As opposed to the SG&A, selling and general administrative expenses. This is your recurring costs. These things happen month to month or year to year. So every year you have to pay taxes. Every year you have to renew with the Wisconsin Department of Financial Institutions, pay for potential trademark protection, maybe not, those sort of things. Marketing costs, those sort of things. That's all SG&A. Not to mention salaries. Okay, which right now none of you are taking a salary, but eventually you're going to need to pay salaries, and if you get any employees, you're going to need to pay them. That's SG&A. And the last one is your startup costs. These are one-time startup costs to get your business running. Once they're paid, you're done, right? So it might be your prototype, some additional marketing costs, some startup inventory, building that you have to get going right off the bat if you're paying cash for that versus if it's rent thereafter. That's what those are considered. Then, so we just went through those. You can go back and review those if you need to. So then we pull those all back together and we say, what do those numbers mean? How do we defend it? And how do we make sense out of that? Okay. So the way that we're going to do that is we never want to tell our story with a spreadsheet. We'd never want to go to here and say, well, look, we've got all these numbers or this. Like, don't ever show this in your presentation. This doesn't make sense. Nobody wants to see this, right? This is boring. What we will do is we're going to utilize simple graphs like this. This we can quickly visualize and make sense out of logically very quickly, right? We can break down our startup cost mix very simply. We can look at our expenses very quickly. Got a lot of administrative expenses and not enough marketing. We need to spend more marketing on here, ladies and gentlemen. So there's something to consider there. So those graphs are going to be very helpful to go through and do. That's my wife. Say hello. So let's go back to what we need to do then for today. So your job then is to complete this financial model worksheet, okay? And it looks just like this. There are 3 questions. Write your answer in the box down here. Question 1, are you making or losing money? Question 2, do your expenses grow with increasing revenues? And explain with examples, please. So what's the story of your expenses? Do they continue to grow or are they staying stagnant while your revenues going up? So that'll depend. And are there any changes you should consider? Do you need to reduce expenses looking forward, raise prices, find more customers? All of that you're going to find by going through your financial model and looking at your 3-year summary tab. So look in your 3-year summary tab and you can see some values down here. So in this case, you're at ending cash. They're losing money in year 1, but gaining money in year 2 and year 3. I would argue that it's not enough. This should be growing a lot faster. So we may need to add more marketing costs and add more customers. You can look at your valuation tab, make sense out of this, see what's going on there, and looking at your simple graphs. So your job for Tuesday is to complete this and turn that in. Do not forget to also read this article. This is very helpful and we'll come back to help you later. So please read that and then as a team get together, complete this and turn it in. You'll find that down here and you'll also find it in 7.4, this assignment post right here. So make sure that this is done for Tuesday. That's it. Hope you enjoyed your weekend, got outside and got some vitamin D, maybe a little suntan, that sort of thing. Be well, wash your hands. Take care, folks.